courts with weather-faded lines. Driveways cleared of the family cars. Barnyards pounded into smoothness from dribbling basketballs. These are the first great arenas, the early dreams of greatness. I'm Howard Caldwell. They call it Hoosier Hysteria. Nowhere else in America is high school basketball more enthusiastically supported than Indiana. One game has come to symbolize that love affair, and it happened right here in Hinkle Fieldhouse, March the 20th, 1954. It was a David and Goliath battle. Little Milan High School versus mighty Muncie Central. This place was packed with fans from both schools, anticipation reaching a fever pitch. No one would ever guess that this basketball game would go down in the history books as one of the best basketball games ever.
Here in Milan, we didn't have anyone here in town. The people moved out, and you know, they went to Indianapolis, all of them. And they had people to come in and run the fire department and look and to patrol the streets.
There was a little more activity than normal. There were a lot of newspaper people. There were some TV people. And we don't see many of those type in Milan, or didn't back in those days. I can remember my mother, father, and myself going to all the local basketball games. We had season tickets. And it was always a dream of mine to become a Bearcat, a Muncie Bearcat.
All the cars were decorated and horns going and streamers, all going to Indianapolis again.
We thought it was great to ride to Indianapolis in Cadillacs. Probably some of us never been in Cadillacs before.
Of course, being a girl at that time, I think we were more involved in the players than the actual game. And I was, like I said, I ended up marrying one of the Bearcats.
My dad, who grew up here in Muncie, would talk about the atmosphere in downtown Indianapolis the night before the state finals. And he would come home with stories about those tickets being scalped at the Claypool Hotel in Indianapolis for $50 and $100 a ticket.
And you had to know somebody to get a ticket.
We had people to register for tickets, and we had people register names of people that were in a graveyard, and people that registered names that we'd never heard of.
Remember how tough it was to get tickets, Jenny?
I sure did.
They had drawings and everything else, and all these guys that stayed over at the King's Hotel that never went to a ball game, only to the tavern, and they got put their names in. They even put our dog Pootzel's name in, but Pootzel didn't get one.
In Indiana, it is known simply as The Game. On one side of the court is Milan High School. The water tower in town still proclaims that incredible victory. State champions, 1954. It's a beacon of hope for all the small schools that one day they too can recreate the Milan miracle. On the other side is Muncie Central, the big school. Now the Bearcats own the distinction of having won more state championships, 8, than any other school in Indiana high school basketball history. And in losing to Milan, they not only added to their own legend, they assured themselves a place in the annals of Hoosier Hysteria.
And in '54, we were a lot stronger. We were quicker. We'd had the experience of the year before. And it was all business in 1954.
Wasn't an exciting game to watch at all. It wasn't, because they just stood and looked at each other, and they're not allowed to do that now.
Oh, the whole place was for Milan.
All but Muncie.
Yes, all but Muncie. But that was a big place to us.
Oh gosh, yes.
And it was full. Nobody went home.
They was all up on their feet. One woman fainted. Remember, Mrs. Esther fainted. They just, I don't think they did anything for it. No,
I guess what it was.
It was right the last few seconds of the game.
Bearcats because they were big and powerful, and Milan was definitely the underdog, but they deserved to be there. Let me make that point very clear. They were a fine basketball team.
It was just a little bit different game for us. We had about a 60-point average going into the finals, and we ended up scoring 30, so they changed our games now.
We had the team to beat everybody, but we played their game and we got beat, that's all.
We knew that Milan had a good basketball team, but we had no recollection that they would make it to the state finals with us playing them.
This was not the best game that we played in the history of the school. We were trying just to hang in there.
We were ahead of Muncie 22-15, I think. We went into our cat and mouse. It's the only time it backfired. It backfired, and they got ahead 28-26. Well, that had never occurred to us before. And I was at center court, and I looked over at Marvin Wood, and he was going. So I stood there. And I stood there for 4 minutes and 15 seconds, and nobody moved, except the fans. 15,000 of them were screaming, and my teammates are doing calisthenics to keep warm, and we're behind 28-26.
I don't remember doing calisthenics. I think holding the ball to give us a chance, the press that made the turnovers, and of course, you know, Bob hitting the last second shot made the story as it is.
We never anticipated the kind of a game it was, naturally, but I think Marvin did the only thing that he could do was hold the ball on us because we had a powerful rebounding ball club.
Now let's go back to 1954. It's the fourth quarter, less than 2 minutes left in the game. The score is tied at 28, and Milan, wearing the dark jerseys, is at the free throw line, shooting 2.
Gene White, our center, for moving all the players to one side of the floor and getting their defensive people out of the way, because he said, "Coach, why don't we move them over here?" And I said, "Great idea." I made the decision who was going to shoot, and I made it because he was an experienced player. He was generally tough under pressure, and the boy, Jimmy Barnes, that was guarding him was a little shorter, and he was a little younger. And I knew Plump would read him and read him right.
Bob stopped, hit the jumper, and I immediately looked to see how much time was left. And I just saw there were 3 seconds just going off when the ball went through the net. So that's when we realized that things were going to be okay.
When the shot goes through and the game is over, there's not much you can do. You know, the fat lady is already sang, and it's time to go home.
A lot of heroes that day.
The one thing I remember more than anything at that game was coming out of the building and getting onto the bus. And we rode in the big trailway buses too. And just all of us sobbing. Just sobbing. Nobody could talk. We all were just crying our hearts out.
We were up all night doing the bunny hop and all, and all through the streets and everything. And there were cars, license plates, we took down from everywhere. So then I don't even remember going home, but I guess I did.
Before the game that night, they had asked me that if they win, would you take us down around the circle? And I said, sure, if you win. And so they did, and I took them down around the circle, and I not only took them to the circle, I took them around on the sidewalk, on the inner sidewalk backwards. But the next morning, I know the mayor came over to the motorcycle garage, and he was a little upset because I had done that. And he calmed down.
We decided to take a different way home. We went through Batesville and down through Pinville. Now, Pinville's 13 miles from Milan, and there were cars parked all the way out to Pinville, 13 miles from Milan. They say there were between 30 and 40,000 people in a town of 1,300. And where do you put all those people? I knew where their cars were, but I didn't know where the people were.
The 54 team is going to be here forever. And anybody who puts on the gold and black at Milan is going to have to contend with that to a certain degree.
We've enjoyed this for 39 years, and how many teams get to do that? Young people that were on our team did not stop with that game. They all moved up to a higher level and have made something beautiful out of themselves.
I can remember these guys as being young, running, playing great basketball. I remember myself a lot younger. But I just like to say to those guys, do you realize that we're all senior citizens now?